try to control the club face, start moving the club head in space. The club head is number 2 that you must control. Okay, that's primarily controlled by the right arm. So club face is number 1. Club head is number 2. So the right arm basically controls the club head. Now I'm moving the club head in space. I'm not changing the club face. I know that seems complicated, but that's a big deal. Again, most people do this with the wrist, trying to make the club face turn over. The club face doesn't turn over. You essentially keep the club face the same and rotate the body and have the club on plane. Okay, very, very important. Number 3, we want to control the club shaft, and that goes back to the inclined plane. Again, this club shaft will move up the plane, down the plane, back up the plane again. Regardless of where you are up here, if you can get it on plane at this point, you can play golf. And that's what we showed you a few minutes ago. It doesn't matter where you are. Well, it matters. But it doesn't matter a lot if you can get it on plane coming down. So the club shaft is number 3 that you must learn. Or controlling the club shaft is number 3. All right, number 4 is ball position. This is really a big deal. A perfect swing only works if you have a perfect stance. Ball position is one of the keys. One thing that we must never forget is the distance from success to failure is very small. So you can make a perfect swing. If your ball position is off that much, you're going to hit a very poor golf shot. So ball position is very important. Now, where should the ball be placed in the stance? Assuming you're hitting a normal trajectory, straight shot, you want to strike the driver at the bottom of the arc. If the left arm stays straight, that makes the left arm the radius of that arc. So there's a relationship of the left shoulder to the ball. So if this is perfect impact, the location of my shoulder is very important. With the driver, you will essentially strike the ball at the bottom, so you want to place it opposite the shoulder. Now, through TrackMan and a number of other devices, we now know that a lot of the good players do in fact swing up with the driver. Be very careful with that. For most of us, we're better off just viewing us having more success by striking the driver right at the bottom of the arc. So place the ball opposite the left shoulder. Now, my preference is to also have it opposite the left heel. Just as a quick story, before I knew anything about the golf swing when I was first being a good player, the club that I grew up at, you could get a wager with anybody on anything, and I had one guy that I was playing, and I was giving him a stroke a hole and kind of beating him like a drum for a while. So as you do, you get in it, you start trash talking. I said, you know what, Claude? I can still remember his name. This is 30 some years ago. I could beat you with one club. Get the look on his face. You know what? I can beat you on one club, with one club on one foot. Which foot did I stand on? Most times I ask that question, I get left foot. I didn't. I stood on the right foot. Now, I didn't know enough to know why I was doing that. But the point is I instinctively understood the relationship between the left shoulder and the golf ball because I was a baseball player. You meet the ball out in front of you in baseball. With a driver, you meet the ball out in front of you. Now, with the iron, all right, what did I do with the iron? There we go. With the iron, you strike the ball prior to the bottom of the arc. So the ball will be somewhat behind the left shoulder. Generally speaking, that will be in a small area right here. All things being equal, the farther behind the shoulder you have the ball, the bigger the difference. So with irons, this is probably a 7-iron. You're going to look like this. That ball position is going to be here. Again, all things being equal, if the ball's too far back in the stands, it's probably going to go to the right. Too far forward is probably going to go to the left. So there is an ideal position that you're going to have for every club. And it's going to vary slightly from player to player, depending on how your release works. But of the things that you need to learn, ball position is number 4. Number 5 is sequencing. Sequencing may be the most difficult of all of this. Most of us have played sports. Jerome, you want to do me a favor there? All we're going to do is play catch for a second. Don't pass judgment on our football skills, although his are clearly better than mine. Sequencing in golf is just like throwing a ball. You step, you turn. I'm sure you were ready. All right? You turn, step, turn, straighten the right arm. Okay? I knew that was coming. In golf, turn, step without stepping, turn, straighten the right arm. And this goes back to our earlier discussion about the importance of the left arm. You would never throw a ball by standing here right-handed, stiff left arm, going that way. Why would you want to play golf that way? Doesn't mean that this isn't important, but if you learn how to use the right arm, that's going to make things much easier. Sequencing is very, very important. It is, in my opinion, the most difficult aspect of the 5 that we talked about. So again, what to learn? Control the club face, left hand. Control the club head, right arm. Control the club shaft, swing plane, ball position, and sequencing. I spend all day working on those 5. There's nothing that I diagnose in a golf swing that doesn't go back to one of those 5 things. The first 3 are relatively easy. They're the 3 imperatives from the Golfing Machine by Homer Kelly. The last 2, especially sequencing, a little more difficult. And what I was going to say here is, again, the direction of the force as part of the sequencing is always down, never toward the target. I want to emphasize that again. All right. Now,